So this is two different ways of writing fractions that have more than just a fraction amount. They might have they do have a whole part to them as well. So when we eat pizza, sometimes somebody might ask us, how much have you eaten? You say, I've had 3 pieces. They asked you what fraction that would be. They cut pizzas usually into 8, little ones into 6. You might say, I had 3 out of 8 or 3 over 8 as your fraction. But some of you, I imagine, are quite good at eating pizza and may actually have eaten a whole pizza and 2 pieces. So that is still a fraction as well. All right, so we have to have 1 and 2 eighths. Now, we don't like 2 eighths because when we're dealing in fractions, we always simplify. But 2 eighths does represent our proportion of a fraction, so it tells the story as well. So when we have a mixed number, it has whole parts and fractional parts. So a mixed number, right? This is why it's mixed. It has a whole part and it has a fraction. Realistically, there are huge amounts of things that are represented by mixed and improper fraction. Wants us to consider it just fractions of an amount. So we might be wanting to say, how many quarters have you collected? And the answer would be, I've collected 12, 13 quarters. All right, 13 quarters. So we might end up with a number like that. This is heavier than the bottom. All right, so it's bigger than the bottom. That makes it an improper fraction because proper fractions have the top number smaller than the bottom. So those are our two choices. Now, when we are changing between one or the other, some of you will just know exactly what it is. I'm going to show you the method so that you have that. So if we go from mixed to improper, we've got 3 and 2. Right, we want to know how many fifths is that. Now, I know that you can just see it straight away, okay? Know that 3 is how many fifths? 15, and we've got 2 more. That is exactly the working we're going to show, all right? We will know we're right because 3 times 5 plus the 2 that are already there over 5. So we've got 15 plus 2 is 17 over 5. All right? So it's a long bit of working. Some of you will be able to go straight from there to there with easy numbers. But with more difficult numbers, you might actually have to do the process. All right? We are doing all of our fractions at the moment without calculators. You will, of course, have a calculator to do most of this stuff. But in this test, it's likely we might not let you use calculators. So you need to learn how to do it without. Okay? So we're going the other way around from improper to mixed. What we need to ask is, how many quarters are there in 13? So we're dividing. 13 divided by 4 quarters equals 3, and remainder 1 you might have written in the past. All right, you might have written something like that. This is 3 remainder 1. But we want to write it as 3 wholes and 1 left over the 4. Right? So we make it the 1 over the 4. So this is quite a powerful technique because dealing with fractions, we sometimes do not want to have mixed ones. We want to have them as impropers. And fractions will come into our algebra in a big way in the future. So if we know our fraction work really well, we will know how to do algebra really well in the future.